Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Agility Leadership Network's event, or meetup event tonight, called Agile HR in a nutshell. But for those of you that are people practitioners, you probably know that really it's Agile people, isn't it? With Pia-Maria Thorén tonight. Pia is an Agile people coach, inspirational director, keynote speaker, and author, and she's the first person in the world to link the terms Agile and HR together. And now we know that Pia-Maria is the pioneer of a fast-growing global movement, Agile People, and also the author of this incredible book that you might have seen posted around with our marketing campaigns before the call. She's the author of this book and leading call to action for the future of work. So without further ado, we have an amazing evening lined up with Pia. Please, it's an interactive session, but we will have plenty of time at the end for Q&A. And when we get to that, Giles will lead us through how we can use the raise hand functionality to make sure everybody gets a chance to participate. But Pia, we're so excited to have you here. Agile People, HR, it's such a crucial agenda for all of us playing in the Agile space and trying to enhance agility across all our organizations. So we're really excited to have you and can't wait to listen and learn tonight.
Thank you, Ashley. I'm thrilled to be here and see so many people. You got a really good meetup group here from all over the world. It's amazing. But yeah, well, how will we kick off the session? Will we collect questions, or should I do a presentation more formally, or what do you want from me today?
Would you like to start with present something that we can actually generate thought and question and ideas, and we go from there?
We'll go from there. I'll do pretty much a standard presentation that I usually do, because I want you to have a little bit of background and a little bit of what is Agile People and what are we doing, who are we, and so on. And then I'll move into more of Agile HR, a little bit of Agile leadership, and then we end with the Agile People coach. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and let's see what we can find.
And while you're pulling that up, Pia, I'm so sorry, I forgot to introduce my amazing co-host, Giles. So Giles, thank you so much for being such an amazing host throughout all of our ALN events.
Let's see, I'm on the right screen now or not? Probably not.
We saw the presentation then.
You did?
Yeah, we saw your desktop.
That was amazing. Okay, I'll just try to.
Yep, we see your desktop with an internet browser and the presentation up.
Ah, okay. But I don't see my, oh, that's really weird. I don't see my slideshow presentation. Okay, doesn't matter. We'll just go like this. And you can see my slides, right?
Yes.
Yes, we can, yes.
Perfect. Then we'll just talk about Agile People and what is Agile People. Agile People is a network or a community in the world, and we are around today. How many are we? 80 trainers all across the world who are working with Agile People content. We have around 40 sessions of Agile HR, human motivation, and Agile leadership content that we are teaching. And we also have a connection to IC Agile, which is the certification body that we work together with. We do Agile HR training, Agile leadership, we do business agility foundations, and we do people development and OKRs and organizational agility and all this stuff. And it started way back in 2009. That's when I got hooked on Agile. I went to become an Agile master in a course in Gothenburg. And I was at the time working at a large Swedish company called SKF. And we were implementing talent management systems. That's what we were doing. Now I see the slideshow button here. Came right to me. Okay, let's do that then. And while we were implementing talent management systems, we realized that we were not creating a terribly lot of value for our customers. It was more about, one size fits all, standardized processes for performance management, compensation and benefits, all these talent acquisition processes and recruitment and workforce planning, and the same way everywhere in the world. So that's not the way to work, actually, because nobody was happy with what we were doing. So we said there has to be another way where you put the people in the center and tailor for unique needs, local needs, because that's where the value is, we realized. And then we started to experiment with Agile HR, because that has given us so much in our configuration projects in IT. So we transferred the tools, the methods, the models, the principles, and the mindset to HR and leadership. And then we started to work from there. And it was quite well received. And people saw the value in it. So we continued to work with that at the same time that we were implementing those talent management systems. I think the last time I was in such a project was in 2014. That's when I totally left the talent management system space. And then I continued only to work with motivation, Agile HR and Agile leadership, and built the business. As you know, Douglas McGregor, he wrote this book about the human side of enterprise in the end of the 1950s and the beginning of the 1960s. And this is a picture from a factory in the old days, maybe 80, maybe 100 years ago even, this one, where we are visiting the ironing department in this picture. And today these women very much are replaced with robots, because it was about doing the same thing over and over again. And now the robots are taking over this kind of work. And of course, the women on this picture, they didn't have any say in how things should be done. It was all carefully thought out by a few men most of the time in the top. And they were just doing what they were told, more or less like brainless robots, unfortunately. If we instead move to the future of work, this is very much the transition that we see will happen. And it has already started, and it has been speeded up by the pandemic as well. So artificial intelligence and robotics will create ultimately actually more work for us, not less, much like it is today. But there will be a shortage of skills if we don't watch what we're doing, because there will be a lot of jobs, but there will be a shortage of skills instead, because the right skills to do the kinds of jobs that will appear in the future of work. And the majority, of course, will be freelancing in the future, and also the employee form will be less common. And remote work has already become the norm. You know, this slide was made 2 years ago before COVID, but this is happening right now, right here. This is happening. All these things that 2 years ago was something that we saw is coming in the future of work. Now we are in the middle of it. And in this complex reality that we are facing today, we have to move from viewing the organization as a machine that can be controlled and managed to viewing it as a social system that consists of people and interactions between people. Do you recognize the first maybe principle in the Agile Manifesto here, or the first value from the Agile Manifesto? Individuals and interactions over processes and tools. People are not cogs in a machinery. They have feelings, dreams, challenges, and thoughts, and they cannot be controlled. So people are not robots. They are complex, adaptive systems that work from intrinsic motivation. And that means that we need to stop to see people as resources, human resources, and view them as the living organisms as they are, who we need to treat very differently for them to work optimally. So everybody's different. Everybody needs something else. No standardization, No boxing people with labels or grades anymore, just skills to understand better what makes each person tick. It's about motivation. And to create this well-functioning social system, it's a very complex task, and we need to use a lot more experimentation and trial and error for it to work. There are no recipes for success here, and Agile is definitely not the silver bullet. What do you need to do to make a person function optimally? You need to care about their basic psychological needs, and these are different for everybody. So instead of one size fits all standardized processes and solutions, maybe we need 5,000 different processes and solutions. And you can imagine how many Agile coaches we need then. We don't need any managers anymore. We don't need any HR people. We only need Agile people coaches who can work and help and support people to be happy and perform in a common direction. We need some guidelines. We need some tools. We need some methods and models. Yes, we do. But if we leave people and we give them the freedom to be happy and perform and create from their own innovation power and creativity, people are amazing. They know how to solve most problems together. When we come together and we combine our competencies, we are amazingly fantastic, and we can do a lot of things together. So I've written 3 books about these topics of Agile HR, Agile leadership, and human motivation at work. And this is the first book that Ashley so kindly shared with us before. Came out in 2017. And after it came out, I started to travel the world. And I traveled the world until March 2020, when everything stopped and everything was canceled for the coming year. There were no trainings, there were no conferences, there were no keynote sessions. And I was like, shit, what am I gonna do now? So what I did is I didn't die, but instead I transferred my business online. I started to record videos, do the mural canvases that I needed to do my training online. I started to train my trainers first so that they could find a way to survive the crisis. And then we wrote a book, not this one, but this is a beautiful picture book, actually. This was the book that we wrote together during the pandemic. For 6 months, we wrote the Agile People Principles, your call to action for the future of work. So right now, actually, David, who is on this call also, David Thompson, he is doing a beautiful Agile People podcast where he's interviewing all of these 35 Agile people from around the world who helped to co-write this book with me. We were 35 people in total, and we wrote each 1 chapter of this book. And we did that in 6 months. It was ready. We had the book launch in September. And now we tried to sell it via Amazon, but it was a problem because it has this flip page at the beginning of the book. I don't know, with all the pictures of the people who wrote it. And they cannot handle that. They cannot print that in Amazon. So it's only available from agilepeople.com. But there you can also buy it in a flipbook format if you want. And if you want something even more easily digestible, this is the picture book for you. This one consists of 220 pictures, and it's beautiful to give to your top management team. You know, people who just want to look at pictures because they don't have time or the energy to read text. That's typical top management. So this is perfect for them. I know some HR persons who gave their whole management teams this as a Christmas present. Amazing. Anyway, we're going to start by talking about the problems with traditional HR and leadership. And I'm sure you recognize this picture. And the problem, of course, is that we cannot control reality and make this perfect plan, but reality looks very different. And if you have a map and if you have reality, what are you going to follow? Well, obviously reality. But still managers think they can make a business plan, they can make a budget, and they think they can stick to it for a whole year. And that's just craziness. We're going to talk more about that. And this is from Evan Leaborn. I love this one. He always used to say, you're not in business to make money, you're in business to create value for a customer. And it could be internal or external. And for HR, of course, customers are internal in the organization. And when you focus on the value creation here, profit will be the consequence. Value comes first, profit follows. And Frederic Laloux, he wrote this book, Reinventing Organizations, a few years ago. It was one of my favorite books before I wrote my own. And then my book did not become my favorite book, if you thought so, but this is still, I think, a fantastic book that I can recommend. Profit is like the air we breathe. We need air to live, but we don't live to breathe. So we need profit to survive. Obviously, we have to have profit. We need money, but that's not the reason why we run the company. The reason is to create value for a customer. So a bad system will beat a good person every time. Already Deming knew this. William Edwards Deming a long time ago knew that it's about fixing the system instead of working with high performers and talents, etc. About control, we're going to talk about that. The definition is the power to influence or direct people's behavior or the course of events. Here I was inspired by Bjarte Bogsnes, who is one of the founders of Beyond Budgeting Roundtable, which is a movement that we work a lot together with. In business terms, this means controlling people and controlling the future. And this is the grand illusion that I talked about before. Managers believe that people can and must be managed and that the future is predictable and manageable. And this is, of course, not true. We have a lot of problems with the budget. It's extremely time consuming. It's the assumptions that we are making in that process are quickly outdated and stimulates unethical behaviors. It creates illusions of control, but everybody knows we don't have any control. Decisions are made too early and often too high in the organization. And it guarantees that we have the planned costs, but it doesn't guarantee that we have any planned revenues. And it can prevent other value-adding activities that we could engage in if we had more flexibility and could do the things that made sense instead of saying, oh, sorry, it's not in the budget, we cannot do that. Have you heard it before? Craziness. Traditional performance ratings, another thing we're going to kill. What are the problems here? Well, a year is too long when the organizational reality changes quickly. We know this. There is no proactivity here. We are focusing on judging the past. Does the boss know best how I have performed? Maybe somebody else knows better how I have performed. And it's connected to salary, which leads to sandbagging and lower set goals. Sub-optimizing effects breed competition, not cooperation, and we are focusing on all the wrong things, just results, financials, and numbers, not on the good behaviors that could make us profitable long term. We have another problem, employee engagement. The vast majority of our workplaces are not great places to work in today, very far from it. From 69 to 94% of employees are either not engaged or actively disengaged at work. So the potential return on investment on this picture is the gray bar in the middle, if you see that. The sleepwalkers, the people who are not actively engaged, but also not actively disengaged. They are more or less indifferent. They are doing their jobs, but they are not feeling passion and engagement to come to work and do what they do best every day. Here, if you could increase engagement just about 1%, it would make a massive effect on the bottom line. Another problem, a huge problem, and this I think is a very valid topic to talk about in this group, is that managers are feeling a lack of psychological safety in agile transformation programs. What happens to me and my role when we go through this transformation? What will become of me when everybody seems to be able to take care of themselves and lead themselves, and they don't need to be managed anymore? This problem needs to be taken very seriously and can potentially ruin the whole change initiative. The skills that took managers to the position they're in today are often not the skills that are needed to lead in a complex world. And for an agile organization, it's more about removing impediments for people to be able to perform than managing and making decisions. Although sometimes the organization needs someone to make the tough decisions when the teams cannot do it themselves. How do managers go from traditional high power and status to servant and transformational leadership? We need to make it possible for leaders to change in the system by changing the environment. And we need to inspire leaders to find that intrinsic motivation to do that and to help them to attain the agile mindset. These are two conflicting goals. Have you thought about it? Because it's only the leaders who can change the organizational structures that will make it possible for increased business agility to happen. And to do that, they need the mindset. But they can only get the mindset by having the right structures and the environment. So it's a catch-22 dilemma, this one. How do we get out of that? I always talk about this three-step process: awareness, training, and coaching. Awareness, training, coaching. If people are aware, it's easier, still not enough. Then they need training. They need to be motivated to train. If they're not motivated to be trained, then they don't know how to do it. If they're motivated to be trained, yes, okay, then we can go ahead, train them, and then coach them to change their mindset. But if they are resisting both awareness and training, I don't think there is any hope. So where do we go from here? What will be the leader's role when everyone seems to be able to manage themselves and have no need to be told what to do or be judged, in this 9-box grid anymore? And what should we do about all these problems? People ask me all the time, and I have some ideas. We're going to look a little bit more into Agile HR, because this talk was called Agile HR in a nutshell. So let's touch on HR for a bit. This picture is from 2011 and originally from Josh Bersin. Already in 2011, Josh Bersin talked about agile management versus traditional management and what is the difference for HR. It's about focusing on speed and customers, he says. It's about adaptability, innovation, and speed. And what has happened really in HR since 2011? Not a lot in a lot of companies. And we hope that now is the time. I always feel that for every new year, we are getting closer and closer and closer to this time when this snowball is going to start rolling by itself. And now, after COVID, I think we are here. But I said that many times before, but I really hope we are here now. HR should be leading the change and the transformation, because I believe it's all about the people. There is nothing else. If you remove the people from an organization, is it still an organization? That's a very interesting question to ask yourself. It's all about the system in which the people live and work, and how can we create those prerequisites for people? And if we do that, they will take care of the rest. We don't need to do more things. We need to learn how to stop hindering people from giving their best effort to the company by providing the wrong structures. And HR has the power to decide about these structures that can support people to perform or make it more difficult to contribute in creative and innovative manners. HR controls, have you thought about it? Change management, leadership programs, people development, talent acquisition, and they provide structures for the organization based on imagined laws of how we have to work. If HR keeps holding on to the old ways of doing things, we don't have the possibility to change in any part of the company. So HR can definitely support or hinder the change towards a more agile organization. And that's why they need to go first. And here HR has the opportunity to make a real difference, to run with Agile. Job descriptions are boxes for standing on, not living in. So we cannot do these detailed, prescriptive job descriptions anymore that we are putting people inside. We are saying, stay in your box, here's your label. You're not supposed to get out of there. This is not the way we can do, right? We need to let people use their whole selves, their creativity and their innovation power, and do what they do best every day. We need to talk about this. What is your passion? What are the skills that you would like to use at work? How can you be your whole self? How can you contribute with all the colors, everything that you have, and not be put inside a box with a label on it and a grade? Be judged in a 9-box grid. This is a terrible way of treating people. We need to set people free. That's my firm belief. T-shaped. Great at this one thing and familiar with all this other stuff. And we talk a lot about T-shaped competencies in Agile. You need both breadth and depth. You can also call these people generalized specialists or specialized generalists. It creates a lot of flexibility for the organization, for the individual, for the team, and also for the whole organization that can easier make these competency shifts and minimize the risk for bottlenecks in competency. We have a lot better adaptability to changing organizational competence requirements if we have T-shaped people, and we don't have to fire people because we don't need their job role anymore. They can always do something else if they are T-shaped. This is one of the tools that I have developed from customer journey map. Now we do employee experience journey mapping, and this is a great tool to use for any HR or people or culture department when understanding how to optimize employee experience. It's about having this more profound understanding of your employees' needs and struggles and how you can help them to perform better and be happier, which is HR's top priority. So employees are HR's customers. How can we understand their needs in a better way through using this kind of tools? Personas, employee experience journey maps, all this kind of empathy mapping and other stuff. What are the touch points between employees and the organization, and how can we deliver best possible value to each employee so that they want to stay with us, so that they become loyal, motivated, fantastic people who give us part of their lives, because that's what people do at work. 8 hours at least every day. So this is the move that HR needs to do. Less of and more of, I'd like to say. It's not about abandoning everything that we have been doing before. It's more about less of and more of, if you see. So becoming an Agile people coach is a way for HR to change and have a different focus. I'm just gonna scroll through this and get to the last item. Yep. Understanding complex systems, deeper skills in psychology, instead of some HR specialist area, more trust and influence to transform instead of having no role in a transformation and no power in a transformation project. Instead of being stuck in certain roles, they can have the flexibility to wear different hats depending on the need of their people. Instead of one size fits all trainings and solutions are tailored towards unique needs. Instead of delivering and developing solutions to the business, they do that now together with the business. They involve the business in the delivery. Instead of mainly supporting the managers, their role is to support everybody, all the people in the organization. Instead of a slightly parental view that we see sometimes in HR, They're treating people more or less like children sometimes. They need to treat employees as adults because they are smart, competent adult people. Instead of focusing on individual performance, we need to enable system performance. And instead of expecting answers, we need to enhance listening and observing skills with HR. Instead of checking compliance to HR processes, we need to enable improvement. And instead of being back office workers, administrators, they need to walk the floor. They need to go to Gemba and talk to the people in the organization and involve them in the HR deliveries. What about leadership? Yes, you have a little hint here. It's about the gardener, isn't it? And we move from managing performance to enabling performance instead of micromanaging, telling people what to do, when in fact they might have a better idea. We move to enable performance. And this is the Chief Enabling Officer instead of the Chief Executive Officer today. I love that title. It's a person who is going to enable for everybody to do a fantastic job. Okay, so how do you build psychological safety if you're a manager? How do you create this environment where people feel free to speak up and admit errors and mistakes so that everyone can learn from them? Well, you need to show vulnerability. And leaders need to go first. Leaders and HR need to go first. Show that you don't have the answers. Ask a lot of questions. Show that you make mistakes. You're not perfect. You need everybody's brains here. So that's how you increase the pace of learning as well. That's when you have psychological safety, then you can increase the pace of learning. And of course, the gardener metaphor for leadership is beautiful, and it's the best metaphor for agile leadership in my view. And the garden has a purpose, and it could be to be as beautiful as possible. It could be to produce fruits or vegetables or something else. But my point is that the gardener takes care of the plants, and the gardener has skills and knowledge about the plants, what their needs are to grow well, you know. The gardener knows if it should be in the shadow or more sunshine, if you should plant it, if it should have a lot of water, if it should have a special kind of soil, or if it likes to grow very much alone, or if it needs a lot of other plants around it to grow well. So the gardener cannot scream or control or command the plants to grow. They can only provide the right conditions for every plant without forgetting about the whole garden. So we cannot force that little seed to grow that we put in the soil. We can try until we're blue. You still cannot do it. We can only give the right conditions and the right environment. And then we can just hope that it will grow. And if it doesn't, we have to deal with it. There is a reason. Why isn't it growing? It could be that the seed doesn't grow in our environment because it's not South Africa. Wine doesn't grow in Sweden, for example. It only grows in South Africa or New Zealand or California. And there is nothing wrong with that plant. It's just that the climate is not right. And if we move the plant to another part of the world, it would grow perfectly well. Or that the seed comes up as a weed in our garden, but it may fit very well in another garden because there are other conditions there. So the Agile People Coach is a new role that more and more people discover. And we created this new role because we believe it will be crucial for HR and leaders to change their role fundamentally to support their organizations and the people to be able to increase agility in all corners of the company. We are talking business agility and people agility. More important, people agility leads to business agility. And business agility also leads to people agility. The Agile People Coach is a role where you use many different competencies and you become more T-shaped depending on where you come from. You can come from HR or leadership or maybe as an Agile coach. And in agile organization, a leader is responsible only in one area, either people, product, technology, or process, but agile people coaches coach the people in all areas to improve value and flow continuously. We built it on Lisa Atkins' framework for agile coaching, but we decided that the agile people coach also needs to be able to take additional roles. So we complemented with the guide role, the navigator role, the reflective observer, and then you can come from a leader role, an HR role, or being a master of agile. And if you want to know more about that, join us in our Agile People Coach training. So depending on the purpose, the situation, and the people, you can choose a different role every day. We cannot do it alone, you know. To be able to remove limiting structures, change the culture, and start collaborating towards this more agile world and future, we need to join forces, all of us. HR cannot do it alone. Leaders cannot do it alone. We need everybody to start talking across boundaries of different kinds, starting this conversation, nudging the system and the people, and move in that common direction together. And when we work with Agile, we don't follow any recipes. We are a true believer in agnostic Agile. There are no recipes or best solutions that always work. We do know that when we stick to certain principles, it tends to work well. When we are increasing the Agile people principles, best practice is always past practice, and only mediocre companies follow best practice. You will never be better than your competitors if you follow best practice, right? So that's why we in Agile prefer to work with principles as the basis, and then you can use different tools to make them come alive. However, there is no guarantee that the tools will work for you, because we need the agile culture and the right conditions in the environment for the tools to work. Having said that, and this is funny, I'm going to give you a recipe for change. This is how you should do it. Start by changing or removing limiting structures, mainly from finance and HR. It's the fixed annual budgets linked to performance targets and bonuses and rewards. Change or remove, step one. Step two, increase supporting structures instead to make it easy to behave in new agile ways, okay? So that could be Scrum, that could be Kanban boards, that could be OKRs, that could be whatever tools, methods, and models you have that would breathe the agile values. This is no guarantee that it will work, but at least you tried, and then you learn from your mistakes. It's about experimentation. Then you start to show the new behaviors, new habits. Tiny habits is my new favorite. BJ Fogg from Stanford University. Have you seen that? Tiny habits is fantastic to change your behaviors. And that comes from learning new ways of acting and working, always trying, always experimenting, always failing, and sometimes succeeding. And then we take the next step. This is how you start. And then you repeat from one, because those structures have a tendency to creep back on us when we grow as a company. We created the Agile People Manifesto, and you can go online and have a look at that, agilepeoplemanifesto.org. This was on the time when people could get together and meet in the physical world. So we were 19 persons from all over the world, from 15 different countries, all 5 biggest parts of the world. We met during 4 intensive days in my summer house on the west coast of Sweden, and this is the result. And this is our gift to you. And with this, I'm just going to give you a last shout out. You need to start today to follow the principles and start your personal and organizational learning journey towards greater people and business agility. The sooner you start, the sooner you will reap the benefits from happy performing people working together towards a common vision. So you are invited. Join us. Join the Agile People community. Visit agilepeople.com for more information. And thank you very much for having me. And now I think it's time for some questions. I hope it was not too long.
No, it was perfect. It was great. Thank you. There were some really helpful and supportive and really enthusiastic chats in the chat box too, Pia-Maria. And we do have a couple questions lined up already. But Giles, did you want to talk through how we run the questions typically, or would you like me to just give that kind of?
No, sure. What we like usually people to do is to use the raise hand capability feature if they've got it. In their Zoom, in their version of Zoom, so that they can ask Pia-Maria a question. And we literally just, go from the queue left to right as you do the raise hand capability. It puts everybody top left in the Zoom window so we can see everybody. Thank you, Harry. Morteza, I think, had a question as well. So if you wanted to ask that, please do the raise hand and we will come to you as well. But otherwise, Ashley, we will invite Harry to ask his question first of all.
Hi, Harry. We don't hear you now. You need to unmute. Let's see. Yeah, you are unmuted.
Oh,
yes, yeah. Now we hear you.
Okay. So you ended with a manifesto, but on sheet 31, you also had kind of things you wanted people to move from the left to the right. And my question was about that because people have valued the things on the left for a long time. And the question is, are you saying that there is no value in
no
that are on the left? Or
no.
Is there more value in the things on the right? Or
the thing is, Harry, that we have been overdoing that side for a long time, and we need some more balance. That's how it is. There is still a lot of value in the things that organizations have been doing traditionally. But we need a bit of more balance towards less rigid structures, more creativity, more learning organizations, and less focus on structure, standardization, competition, sales, numbers, and financials. Because that has been the focus for so long, and we have not had enough of focus on continuous learning, on experimentation, on trial and error, on psychological safety, on motivation, and all the soft parts. That has not been, for top management, something that they thought would be profitable.
I'm asking this because there's a discussion with Agile 2.0, and there people stated that when you look at the Agile Manifesto, lots of people don't even say we value this stuff, but this stuff more, but they kind of shifted to only valuing some stuff, and that led to lots of problems. So,
yes, I can imagine that. It's overdoing it on the other side is not good either. It's always to try, where do we need more now, and you are never ever in balance, because if you ever was, then you would just say, hey, don't move, don't change, we're in balance, we have everything perfectly laid out for us, don't move. And then nothing would happen if we were always in perfect balance. We are never in perfect balance. We're always trying to, find our ways moving forward. And it's constantly, okay, maybe we need a little bit more structured here now in one part of the organization so that we can be more flexible in this other part of the organization. And this is the puzzle. And you can lay this puzzle only by breaking up silos, working with boundary spanning, talking across borders, finance, talking to managers, talking to HR, talking to IT, make these buddy teams, cross-functional buddy teams that come together regularly and discuss topics that are relevant for improving the organization together, instead of working in those functional, silos.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Harry. Pradhum, before going to you, I just want to invite Morteza. I know you wrote your question in the chat. Sometimes the raise hand functionality doesn't work for some software versions. So I'd just like to invite you, if you'd like to ask your question, please do feel free to come off mute and ask now. Otherwise, no problems. I can also ask it for you if you'd like.
Sorry, I had a problem, but I want to ask my question. First of all, thank you for a great presentation. That was so precious to me. But I want to know how to implement the changes through the company and organization. You know, I'm always curious to know how to facilitate these changes as a HR profession. So let me know your challenges and your experience through this regard. Thank you.
Start to make small experiments in the HR department with yourselves. Start to visualize your work. Start to share what you are doing with each other. Involve the business in this as well. Make small experiments together with a Kanban board or a backlog, or, you know, playing different roles, sharing competence, maybe telling each other what kind of work are we doing. And never underestimate the power of unlearning and stopping to do things, because people, they say, oh, but I have no time to focus on this change. You know, I have so much administration. I have to write this report. I have to do this policy, this instruction. This program needs my attention, and I have to run this project. No, you don't. If you stop doing these things, you have plenty of time to focus on the transformation. And that's my point. You need to stop to do a lot of things that are not necessary to do anymore. You get rid of all that boring stuff, all that writing reports, because we don't have a need to control people anymore, right? We don't have to write the weekly report because we trust people. Wow, what a concept. Isn't it amazing? So start with your own department, start with HR, make small experiments, and then you gradually involve the business. And then when you get the hang of it, you try you see some progress coming, then you can also share this with the business. Oh, this is a way we work. You might want to try to do the same thing, you know, and then you share your experiences with others, and you talk across borders. You go to Gamba, go to the business, get to know your customers, get to know what they need, what they require, and what they want from you. What are the things that you can do for them?
Yes. Thank you. That's great. Thanks. That's good. Thank you.
We've got a lot of support in the chat for that explanation as well, Pia. So that resonated with a lot of people.
Thank you.
Pradhum, over to you, my friend. You're on mute, though.
Thank you. Hopefully you can hear me now. So, Pia, I think this is a very fantastic presentation, and this is one of my area of interest. I'm in doing research in the last couple of years. So I'm not HR professional, but I'm working as an enterprise agile coach. And I knew the role of HR is very crucial for any transformation. But the summary you presented is very good. I have 3 questions for you. Mm-hmm. So first one, when you said about remove finance and HR to lead or embed the transformation. So I would like to see if you share an example. How did you do it with any organization? What the reaction was? Any tips and methods? That is my first question.
Yes. How do we do it? How do we empower finance and the HR so that they can get rid of the old ways? And it starts with a budget. If we still keep doing the annual budgeting process, that's where it starts. So that's where we need to shake hands with the Beyond Budgeting movement. They are talking to financial leaders. They are talking to top managers. And they are being respected by these leaders as well, because they once were in their shoes. So this is a very good place to start, because when we do the budgets, when we do the breakdown of the budgets in the organization, managers get goals, right? They set their performance goals that they are supposed to achieve for their department. And then they have their people set their goals that they are supposed to achieve, so that every manager can achieve their goals, so that the whole organization can achieve their overall business goals and vision, etc. So if we don't start with the budget process, HR has a very hard time also to get rid of the performance management process and the bonus and reward structures. So we need to change entirely, and this needs to be done very gradually. Obviously, we need to take very small steps, and there will be a lot of resistance, awareness, training, coaching. This is the recipe that I have found very successful. First, you need to be aware of the need for change, and we need to create psychological safety so that leaders are not afraid what's going to happen to them in this change, because that's when the worst possible scenario is when leaders say that, yes, this is great, I'm on board, you know, but they are not really. They are thinking for themselves in their heads, oh, this is crazy. Everything I worked for 30 years is going down the drain. I have power, I have status, I have a position, I have a fat salary, and now everything that I worked for is threatened, you know? So the worst possible thing that could happen is when these managers say that they are on board, but they are really not at all on board, you know? And
that's very good.
It's much better to have managers who say, I hate this, I'm going to quit. Yeah, fine, see you later. I mean, it's much better.
Okay, that's very good, thank you. I think in the future, we might need to create a program for Agile for Finance, because those are the hardest people, like CFO, and those are the challenging people who came in our way.
Yeah, you need.
My next question is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The next question was, when you mentioned about this performance management, and your recommendation was replace individual versus system performance.
Yes, so systems performance, but of course also individuals need to be motivated and perform. What you can do, for example, is to work with value streams, work with value stream mapping, organize around value streams, and then you can put OKRs in the end of the value stream. So you can have several value streams contributing to a certain objective, and you can have different key results in the end of the value streams. That's a great way of organizing yourselves. Or do like Hr, the Chinese company. Instead of having this big 80,000 people hierarchical organization, you create 4,000 micro enterprises of 20 to 30 people. It's the power of the small team and working in the network of the small teams together. That's another way of doing it. But this hierarchical organization is really hindering us when doing an agile transformation. We need to reorganize. We need to remove some structures, and we need to make the things that we say we want collaboration, and then we reward people on individual goal setting, and they get bonuses for achieving their goals, right? And then we don't get more collaboration and cooperation, we get competition instead. So we have structures that are working against the things that we say that we want. And we want.
I think what I tried, sorry, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
So the structures need to be such that they talk the same language as the nice words we say. Yeah, we want diversity, we want cooperation, we believe in freedom, we believe in creativity and innovation, and then they close people into boxes and put labels on them and put them in a 9-box grid and say, you are a high performer, you are a weak performer, you're an average performer, and then we link it to a salary box. We make a mechanic system out of people who are complex adaptive system in themselves, as well as a team is a complex adaptive system as well. The whole organization is a complex adaptive system. You cannot control it like that, like a machine. It's impossible. And when we have these kind of structures, your agile transformation will not work.
No, I agree. I think what I tried in the past, one of the place, I replaced individual performance with team performance measurement.
That's
if
one
teams
way.
are made, so the teams are meeting the goals. Our teams are delivering against it, and we are rewarding the team, not those individuals.
Yes.
And it went well. I think we didn't manage to go to the value stream first, but I think that were one of my change agent was to replace individual versus team. But that was my last question was, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your questions.
Thank you. Good questions. Insightful for all of us. I might volunteer myself to go next. Actually, I'll take my hand down. Pia, just before starting this conversation, you and I were talking briefly about that, Agile People came out in 2017. So I just have a question of, if you were to update your book, what areas would you focus on? What are the hot and up and coming trends that you're noticing now in the Agile People space, present day?
I think it's been a lot of talk about it already for several years, but I think psychological safety is so important in an organization where people can be engaged and speak their mind and say what they think, because that means that they are engaged, right? It doesn't mean that they are complaining. It's when people become silent, then you should beware, because that's not a good sign. Psychological safety, Amy Edmondson, she's my hero, really, she is amazing. And Fearless Organizations, her book, read it and talk more about this. I have a free game on my website. It's called the Psychological Safety Game that you can go and play anytime. It opens up a dialogue about those difficult topics that we rarely speak about. So agilepeople.com/PsySafeGame, go play it with your team, play it in the retrospective, and decide on, okay, we will pick these 3 cards for the next sprint to focus on to create more safety, so that we can release much more motivation and creativity and use people in a much better way. And now I say use people, it doesn't sound nice. I don't know the English word for optimize the way people work, I want to say. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Giles, over to you, my friend.
Yeah, I just wanted to just share something from Pradham earlier. I mean, it's funny that we're sort of talking about this beyond budgeting movement. Beyond budgeting as an entity, as a thing, started in 1998. It's been around longer than the Manifesto. Okay, it's not quite as old as Scrum. Scrum had its 25th anniversary last October, but it's getting there. And in a few years, beyond budgeting will be. My question for you, Pia-Maria, is, and this is obviously one of the areas that I obviously find most difficult myself, but, who is actually inviting the experts like you to the table to have a conversation with executives, with CEOs? Is it there's an agile coach already in play who's obviously seen a need to get the kind of the transformational mindset piece around agile people to happen in the organization? Are they the people introducing you into the conversation, or is it actually that you're finding modern CEOs who are now these people who are wanting change to happen? Are they also coming to you as well? Are you seeing a shift at all from coaches sort of requesting your support and help to actually the change agents from a CEO level also coming to you to start that conversation as well?
Yes. Many CEOs are asking for help and are asking me to come to speak and do keynote sessions and the like. So I think it's a big difference now compared to a few years ago. HR is still very, very hard a hard nut to crack. They I don't know what it is, but I don't think they feel psychologically safe. And it's a lot of HR people who are from the new generation, and also older HR people who have this modern mindset, let's say. They are coming to my trainings. Agile coaches are coming a lot. I don't have that many managers and CEOs in my training, but they ask me to come to speak often. HR managers, directors also, to a larger extent, are now contacting me to come and run training with their HR teams and, play games and coach and do all sorts of things. That there has been a shift the last years, I can say that. I've been working since 2009 with Agile, and I did my first Agile HR training in 2011 or 12. And I had 3 persons in every training. So something has happened since then. I refuse to give up, as long as you don't give up, you haven't lost, or what you say, you haven't failed until you stop trying. That's what I believe. So I'm very stubborn, extremely stubborn person.
No, it's a great answer. I mean, I hope that, CEOs even become the chief empowering officer, if you like, going forwards as well, chief enabling officer, like you were sharing earlier.
Yes.
And I really hope that they're the ones who start seeing a need for this conversation to be happening. Yes. I certainly spend a lot of time working with the EXCO and the SLT of organizations and trying to get them to sort of see the light, shall we say, and adopt that mindset and sort of start living and breathing these philosophies and these values in the workplace. And it's great to see that they are also coming now to you, even if it's a case of more coming to you to get you to come and talk and sort of do some of that inspiring conversation to the workforce. That's kudos. It's great to see that shift. That's why I wanted to ask the question.
At least it brings awareness, and that's the first step. Awareness is important. Inspiration to do something. Russ wants to say something. Russ Lewis.
Yeah, but I have to wait for Giles to say I can.
Oh,
okay.
Russ, please do feel free to ask your question, sir.
Well, I have a question and I also have a note, and Giles will tell me if it's okay to share my note. So the Amy Edmondson stuff. So if you look at Amy Edmondson's research, she was actually always interested in organizational learning. And it's so interesting that the psychological safety was a little bit of a serendipity. The fact that caught on. What she and people like Peter Senge from mid-90s, they were interested in, you have to outlearn your competition. And if you think about tech, right, if you can't learn, forget it. So in fact, her initial work was about how do you get organizations to improve their learning? And what she worked out is if it ain't safe to learn, nobody's going to do that.
Exactly. And there is this, I don't know if you saw it, what do you call this kind of?
Graph axis?
Yeah, you have motivation on one axis, and then you have psychological safety on the other one. And then you have, of course, the learning zone up in the corner, right? So high motivation, high psychological safety, that's when we can maximize learning and performance. And Agile organizations are learning organizations. That's actually exactly the same thing. And the organizations that happen to learn faster than everybody else, they are the winners for the future. The organization can learn more and faster and learn from mistakes, learn from failures, come up with new products and services that the customers want and need. These are the real winners in the future. Always unlearning, relearning, and learning new things and unlearning old things. That's the most important thing for the future work.
Thank you. So here's my little share. You'll get a kick out of this because you linked agility to sorting out budgeting. So I am working in a very large organization. We're having tremendous success. We've got fantastic executive sponsorship. I've got, we're launching the first leader coach association for coaching course in the world. Like now, it's happening now. And I've got fantastic leaders signed up, which is absolutely amazing. Here's the thing. I've got a budget. I have got a use it or lose it budget. I have literally got 3 roles open for coaches, and they can be executive coaches or agile coaches. If I don't hire coaches before the end of the month, I lose my budget.
Oh my God, that's the old way of doing it, right?
And that's the only way to do it, right? You know, so you're not going to try and change that. So that's it. So if anybody's interested in joining me on my journey, Giles, I tried, I failed. If your name's Ashley, that would be great. That would be really good. anybody that's interested.
My Slack channel, Russ, I can put something in my Slack channel, my Agile People Slack channel. I have 2,500 persons in there.
Yeah, please do. I'll ping you on LinkedIn, because I've got the adverts out on LinkedIn. It says Mansion House, but it's really a great big global bank. I'll send that to you.
Fantastic. Send it to me on LinkedIn, and I'll post it for you.
Thank you, Pia-Maria. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And David, you're there. Hi. David Thompson. That's the guy with the podcast, the Agile.
Hi, Pia.
Yeah.
I did share the link earlier on, Pia-Maria. I did do that. Apologies that I've been on mute. I've got a teenager and a puppy running around here, so it's a bit crazy. But enjoying the session again, Pia-Maria, and lovely to see you.
I think you've heard me before. So David Thompson is one of the Agile People coaches in my crew.
Yes,
so,
indeed.
Yeah.
Oh, again, you know, David, if there's any time you want to share anything at one of these events in the future, then, you know, please do let us know. If you've got a passionate particular area of conversation that you want to share, please do. Thank you also very much for sharing the link to the episodes as well. I've certainly saved the chat. And for anybody else, you know, you can click the 3 dots on at the bottom right in the chat, and then click on save, and then you've got it all. It'll save it into a folder on your computer, and you will have all of the links that we've had throughout today's meetup.
Amazing.
Good. We're out of questions, are we now, Giles?
I think so. I was just going to check. Is there any further question from anybody else? Anyone here today? Does anyone have any final questions before we begin to wrap up? Our normal close time is 7:45 British summertime, which is exactly where we are today. And if there isn't any last minute questions jumping in, I will begin wrap up and start to obviously say thank you very much, Pia-Maria, for an absolutely inspiring talk. Lots to take away, lots of food for thought for us coaches out there who are trying to sort of, you know, execute transformations across businesses, trying to inspire the leadership to become better leaders. The unlearning piece I really liked the phraseology of. You know, it's not through entitlement these CEOs are there, and it's not by their way or the highway. It's you know, they have to do a lot of unlearning and change and learn new things as well. So from me personally, and obviously on behalf of the community here, I want to say thank you very much indeed for obviously coming along and inspiring us to be better humans.
Yeah, thank you so much, Giles and Ashley, for reaching out. I always enjoy myself. You can hear that I'm passionate about these topics.
Oh, yeah.
I love speaking about it. So thank you.
That's very contagious. Yeah, your passion is so contagious.
Thank you, Ashley. Yeah.
And thank you to everybody who's been, you know, posting links, things in the chat, comments about how well it was done. Thorough, thank you very much. Appreciate the comments you've been adding in as ever. And just we are always grateful when we get, you know, the inspiring people to come along and share their time with us. And look, it's still sunny in Stockholm right now. I have no idea what the time is with you.
Actually, it's 9:15, and
okay.
The sun's setting across the water. It's beautiful here.
Nice.
So yeah.
Nice. Okay, Ashley, do you want to let the community know about, even though it's not fully planned yet, who we might be having coming up soon?
Sure. So we've got a couple folks lined up. So we'll be posting as soon as we can. We're just sorting out the logistics now. But in September, the second Tuesday of September the 14th, we'll have Tim Erschinger talking about leadership, self-organization, agile leadership. And then Nigel Thurlow, I think we're probably looking at end of October, actually, a Flow Consortium and Toyota and Scrum. So we'll get those diarized and out to you guys as soon as we can.
All right. Pia-Maria, thank you once again on behalf of the Agility Leadership Network and all the amazing community that have come along today. Ashley, awesome as ever. Thank you for being my partner in crime on this. And we look forward to seeing you all very soon. And Pia-Maria, you know, thank you. Please do come back and inspire us again in the future.
I will most certainly do that. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. See you all soon. Have a great time.
Take care.